good. Go ahead.
Listen to them.
Riley Gaines is a former competitive swimmer from the University of Kentucky's swim and dive team. Her whole life, she worked tirelessly, harder than most people ever will, to compete at the top level. At one point, she was ranked 3rd in the country. Meanwhile, a man named Lia Thomas, a mediocre male swimmer from the University of Pennsylvania, was ranked 462 in men's swimming nationwide. So, he decided to identify as a woman, change his name to Lia Thomas, and compete in women's swimming. In the national championships of March of 2022, Gaines had to compete against Lia Thomas in the 200-meter freestyle event. They actually tied within the 100th of a second. The NCAA official congratulated both of them, but said that Lia would get the trophy picture, and of course, all the glory. Since then, Gaines has become an outspoken critic of men participating in women's sports. She has gone on a nationwide campaign to bring attention to the travesty and injustice of men being able to participate in women's sports. In April of 2023, Gaines attended a Turning Point USA event at San Francisco State University to speak about her campaign against trans athletes in women's sports. And then this happened.
It's just me. I'm good. I'm trusting. You got me. I'm good. I'm coming. I'm good. I'm good. Trust me. I'm good. Go ahead.
Listen to them.
A lot of you really need to wake up to what is happening in our country. It would seem that a lot of people are aware of the sheer insanity that is overtaking this country, but they don't understand why it's happening. Many people understand that our government by and large is corrupt because of the evil and corruption that exists within the hearts of men. But who is responsible for sowing the seeds of evil and corruption in the hearts of men? Many people lack discernment and true wisdom. They do not understand, or they refuse to accept, the truth. That there are evil forces behind all of this. That there is spiritual warfare going on behind the scenes.
And I don't think the issues that we debate and really are in some ways distractions are the core issues at all. I mean, there are forces, unseen forces acting on people. But the two things I have come away with after reading the entire New Testament, and I'm up to Deuteronomy in the Old Testament, it's like maybe the point is that God takes people who are not perfect people, not only not perfect people, like they're so imperfect again, I don't think I could have dinner with them, and uses them for these grander purposes. That's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I notice is that people, while they have free will, of course, and they can make decisions and they live with the consequences of those decisions, they're not really in charge of the arc of history at all. They are being acted upon a lot.
Amen.
Okay? And I never really appreciated that because I'm American, and so I grew up with this feeling that we're the sum total of our choices. And, well, that's not what I'm reading at all. Yeah, people's choices matter. You need to do certain things and not do other things. On the other hand, you are not in charge. You are being acted upon by a world you can't see. And that, by the way, is consistent with my life experience.
I'm just noting what's super obvious. Like those of us who are in our mid-50s are caught in the past in the way that we think about this. One side's like, no, I've got this idea and we've got this idea and let's have a debate about our ideas. They don't want a debate. Those ideas won't produce outcomes that any rational person would want under any circumstances. Those are manifestations of some larger force acting upon us. It's just so obvious. It's completely obvious. And I think two things. One, we should say that and stop engaging in these totally fraudulent debates where we are using the terms that we used in 1991 when I started at Heritage, as if maybe, I could just win the debate if I marshaled more facts. I've tried that, doesn't work. And two, maybe we should all take just like 10 minutes a day to say a prayer about it. I'm serious. Like, why not?
Look, I get it. Everyone is busy living their own lives. But I believe it is incumbent for all of us, especially Christians, to be informed of politics and world events so that we can get out there in the world and speak out against this stuff and begin to take leadership roles in our churches and communities to fight back against this evil, this wicked and deleterious social contagion that is destroying people's lives and tearing families apart. Let's talk about Matthew 24, 36 through 39. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. There's nothing wrong with eating, drinking, and getting married. But what these verses mean is that people are not going to be spiritually or mentally ready for the end of days and the second coming of Christ. People will be carrying on like everything's normal and that things will be like the way that they've always been. Things will be the way that they've always been, right?
Wrong!
What you must understand is that we are at war. We are at war for the very soul of this country, and by extension, the souls of its inhabitants. There are dark forces at work that are trying to destroy this country, a country that was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, a country founded on a constitution that was divinely inspired. Our founding fathers prayed before their meetings when they wrote the Constitution. Once these people destroy our country, they will rebuild it as a new dark creation, a creation that will pave the way for a worldwide kingdom of darkness. Once America falls, the rest of the world will follow suit.
Listen to them.
Look at how hateful these people are. Glenn Beck said that they are rabid and crazy, but it's more than that. They are demonic. Listen to how they scream and shriek and terrorize this poor girl. And for what? Gaines wasn't okay with a biological male fraudulently competing in women's swimming and stealing the victory and glory that so rightfully belonged to her. Furthermore, she wasn't okay with a biological male being present in the locker room, watching her change, and at the same time, having his male anatomy in full view. Did you hear the one woman say, "Oh, you're crying"? This woman has no mercy whatsoever. She is hell-bent on making Gaines suffer. She seems to be thriving off Gaines' suffering. I once read a book called My Descent into Death. It's about a college professor and former atheist Howard Storm. While Howard was in Paris with his wife, he suffered a perforation in his duodenum. He was taken to the hospital, but died while on a hospital bed waiting to see a doctor. He heard some sweet voices calling to him from the hallway. These voices spoke softly and sweetly to Howard, and they enticed him to follow them down a long, increasingly dark corridor. As they walked, they began to change. They began to become impatient with Howard and told him to hurry up. They got meaner and nastier. The further they descended into the darkness, the more aggressive and hostile they became. Finally, they arrived in a place of absolute darkness. Then these things began to rip, claw, and tear into Howard until they left him as a broken, tattered mess on the floor. Howard prayed a prayer that he heard as a child, and then Jesus came to rescue him. Jesus breathed new life into him and allowed Howard to return to earth. Howard is now a Christian who shares his testimony with others so that they can have eternal life and avoid hell, the place of torment he once found himself in. This is what demons do. They rip and tear into people, and they enjoy other people's suffering. A side note, I thought about this book while watching the travesty of what happened to Justice Kavanaugh during his confirmation hearing. That is what the Democrats did to Kavanaugh. They ripped and tore at him with their words. That is what demons do when they cannot assault someone physically. They use their words to malign and slander others to destroy their reputations. If it weren't for the police, I'm utterly convinced that this hateful woman leading the crowd would have pummeled Gaines. She and the other people in the mob would have ripped and torn her to pieces. These people are wicked and demonic.
This is their plan, people. These are demons.
They have been given over to depraved minds. They have no compassion. They have allowed their demons to overcome them, so now the demons are just working through them. I came across a story of a depraved and morally bankrupt professor from the UK. She has criticized Gaines for advocating against trans men competing in women's sports. Do Do you see how flawed this woman's logic is? Gaines is a sore loser because she's not pleased with someone who cheated to steal her victory? What? But what is shocking about this story is a professor's suggestion of what should be done. This gives us good insight into how sick this professor is and what a cesspool higher education has become as a whole. This professor said that children should be exposed to penises and vaginas at a young age so as not to be freaked out by trans men and women in the locker room when they get older.
What?
Are you guys seeing what's going on here? I've noticed a reoccurring theme with the left. First they foist all this wickedness and perversion on us, and then when we voice our righteous indignation and outrage, they respond by telling us that the solution is increased perversion and wickedness. So basically, the solution to evil is, well, more evil.
What?
And of course they go after children. That's what evil people do. They target the children because they're impressionable. They try to corrupt them from a young age because that's what Satan wants. We must stand up to these people. It is up to good men and women of God, to fight back against this wickedness.
And myself, being a Christian, I entirely see this as spiritual warfare. It's no longer good versus bad or right versus wrong. This is moral versus evil. And I looked this evil in the eyes in San Francisco. And it's soulless, it's hateful, it's vengeful, it's violent. And they do it. I think it's ironic. They do it in the name of love. They do it in the name of compassion and tolerance and acceptance and welcoming and all of these different terms. But it is not that. It is none of those things. Our argument is rooted in love. We know the term true love and what words are combined here, true and love. Telling the truth is love. Those terms are synonymous. Those terms are synonymous. They go together. You can't have truth without love, and you can't have love without truth. So that is what love is. It is telling the truth. It is being bold. It is being empowered, which is why it's so important you guys are here. You are this next generation. You are the one in those college seats right now, seeing this all firsthand, unfolding, and you are the ones with the power to do something about it.